Hello. So I'm looking at the Hypno here. This is a SleepyCircuits Hypno. It's a Euro rack format video synthesizer with two channels. It has multiple shapes. It can accept video input. You see here on my screen, my hands waving around. And it does all sorts of fun fractally things. For my setup, for my purposes, I want to accompany a live band with some interesting visuals. Um, and one of the things that I have to accommodate in that space is lighting. Um, that that's a known quantity, has been for a very long time. It's been controlled by primarily the DMX protocol, from what I understand. I'm very new to this world, so forgive me if I say something wrong. But yeah, I don't want to do lighting, but I need to know a little bit about it, right? So one of the things that I want to do is when I'm playing a show, I want to be able to throw out presets of different scenes that I think would look interesting, on a screen behind the band, and then I want to be able to play with just that screen, changing certain values. Um, in a live music setting, we will have these DMX lights all controlled, and that's a known quantity. So if I can coordinate with the lighting person to as to what colors I'm going to be using, all the better. So to that end, I am running control of this MPD 226, which I don't think you can see right there. It's an Akai MPD 226. It's a nice controller. It's got really great MPC like pads, four faders, four encoders, four banks of 16 pads, three banks of these, and these buttons are variable as well. Assignable rather. I'm not here to talk to you about that gear though. I'm here to tell you how I have got just plain note values coming out of this, going into the Hypno to make MIDI CC values. And that's where this guy comes in. This is a Blokas Midihub, and it has many different tricks. But its primary function is to take a set of inputs and route them to outputs. And in so doing, can run it through a variety of virtual channels, and within the confines of these channels, they can be filtered and transformed and modified and updated in a variety of ways. One way that I'm doing is I'm taking note values and I am, in some cases, multiplexing them, splitting them into multiple different commands for one button press, turning them into CC values that this thing understands. Out of the box, though, it does understand note values. And it's very useful, actually, because it has the idea of presets. And one thing we can do with presets is, out of the box, you have these buttons here, and we can use button combinations to set presets, to show various things. That's great, but I want more than three. So here I've got a page of them, and then another page of them, and then another page of them, and another page of them. So let's just look at, something like this, right? Something to understand about the Hypno is when you are diving around in it and playing around with these knobs here, you can get lost, man. But I need to not be lost. I need to not just have an idea of presets, but I need like controls within there so that when I am coordinating my efforts with this live music happening, I don't fumble or do something that is discordant with that. So when you have the idea of color within the Hypno, you have this idea of one color value. Essentially, in MIDI, it can be represented as 0 through 127, 128 values. You have two offsets. You have an offset for the A channel and an offset for the B channel. By default, offset A is 0, offset B is 180 degrees out at 64. So what we're looking at here is definitely not that offset, though. So what we want to do, okay, on these pads, I'm sending note values here. Note values correspond to the way that Hypno can, by default, recall stored presets. It allows you to store a bunch of them. It's pretty great. So I have this preset here. I have many others that I can work with. But we're going to play with this one here because I know that this offset is wrong, and I want to coordinate it properly with whatever lighting is going on. In some cases, this might be the right choice, but I want to demonstrate what this box can do. Channel 16 notes, whatever. MIDI CC values, it knows. I can change those through these, which are kind of like these. Not a big deal. But when we get into this is where it gets interesting. So when I changed presets here, all of my fader bank and my encoders stay the same. My pads change a lot, though. This sends now on channel 14. Midihub intercepts channel 14. Hypno doesn't care about channel 14. My other gear doesn't care about channel 14. So I'm using it to my advantage so that Midihub can capture it. Within the confines of Midihub, I'm processing it in a variety of ways. So here, I'm sending out a note, and I want to be able to say, when I hit that pad with that color on it, it ought to look pink on the screen. When I hit red, I should see red, orange, right? So it's doing it. This preset is actually pretty decent for that because only one of the colors is out. When you're diving around, though, your colors can be way out, and you might not be able to know if that's green. Will it actually show green? Will it be something really discordant from green? Sorry, I come from a musical background. I don't have any history in visual arts, so I don't know what to say other than discordant here. But that feels right. So in any event, this is a pretty simple transformation. We're taking a note and we're saying, if I play this note, which I know I'm going to set to pink here on the Akai, I want it to send a MIDI CC value or MIDI CC number with a specific value, which corresponds to pink on the screen, right? But remember, we have just the color. We have the color value, but not just the color value. We have two offsets, A and B. So here we see offset A hasn't been manipulated. Offset B has. What I've created here is a 0 function, which essentially, when this note is sent, what we're doing is we're processing it 3 times within the Midihub instruction set to say we want to send a 0 to color, we want to send a 0 to offset A, we want to send 64 to offset B. And you see how it resulted in a change. So with that change, I know that my colors will be exactly what they are represented on these pads, and I can coordinate then to my heart's content. As an example of something where it might be, fairly off, I feel like this one. I think this one is pretty far out there, and it is a really neat pattern that I would want to play behind a band, but I know it to be off. It's not true at all. And so, if you'll see what happened, I just zeroed it out. It's showing me that brown, that is, we are in a different feedback mode of the Hypno, and there is definitely pink there. You can see it. So, forgive that. That's a boundary I have yet to cross. I'm trying to make this point, and I'm really elongating it, I think, too much. One button, transform, 3 values. I've done a couple other things. I'm starting to play around with some animation. I need like a back to preset, like a cache or something. I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. But for now, I've got like a stop. So that sets any self-mod functionality that the Hypno provides. There are 5 facets you can set self-mod on, and they generally have 0 in the middle and negative 64 to positive 64 for, you can equate it to like a left spin or a right spin essentially. And so that's what I've done. Got a left spin, stop. I got a right spin. I got my color reset, and I can play with any sorts of colors. And if I am in the right feedback mode, I know that my colors are going to match up to my expectations. And that's important for what I want to see on the screen. So, yeah, I think that was my entire point. This thing is awesome. It can do like anything. I've used 128 out of 255 pipes. I believe I can be even smarter about how I'm assigning these filters and transforms, but I'm still learning quite a lot. So I'm not there yet. And also, this device keeps changing. The community is very active, just like the Hypno community is very active, to whom this video is pointed. So, yeah, there are lots of ways to play with this thing. Get something that speaks MIDI, anything, really. With notes, you can do presets. With CCs, you can change other values, and it's really limitless. It's a pretty sweet way to play with the Hypno. So that's all I got. Otherwise, you'll get an earful of more nothingness. Bye.